Hey, it's your Las Vegas poker coach. On this podcast, we take a professional mindset to talk about poker and make some money at the game we all love. I invite you to listen in as we talk strategy, casinos, and life in general. Thanks for tuning in. Hey everybody, it's the LV Poker Coach. Really great to be back with you. And hey, I'm putting this up on Veterans Day weekend, so first of all, happy Veterans Day to everyone out there who has served. Wonderful that we have such a good holiday to recognize everybody. So I took advantage of the holiday to play 2 days this week, and it's been a very long time since I played 2 days in a row. But I figure I do it because I had the time. And also winter's coming up, so I gotta get in my hours as I can. Eventually there's gonna be snow and ice on the roads, and I'm not a big fan of driving when it's too crazy out. So got to get my hours in. There's going to be some weekends that are going to be no play weekends, I assume, because it's just going to be the weather is just not going to be to my liking. So played 2 days, had a net negative weekend, unfortunately. So let's just get right into it and talk about how this weekend went. And just as before, I'm going to give you the session rundown, and I'm going to tell you what I did right and what I did wrong. Alright, so Friday, November 10th, I got to the casino pretty early, which is probably a mistake on my part because it's really hard to find games at that hour, and the ones that are going are the ones that are usually filled with regulars. So I ended up sitting down, and that was a really tough lineup. Probably some of the better 2-5 players at Parx. Time for me to reconsider some of my lineup selections there. Had a really swingy session. I was anywhere from up $300-400 to down a couple $100. So mentally, it was really hard to not feel upstuck. Even when I was up a little bit or even, it was still kind of hard to avoid thinking, but half an hour ago I was up $300 or whatever. So lots of mental exercise there to kind of avoid those thoughts, because that's ultimately negative thinking. I did get involved in a hand that did bring my stack down quite a bit. But at this point, I don't get rattled. I really had no problems buying in again for an additional 100 buy-ins, which, to me is still a significant amount of money. It's still a significant amount of my bankroll at this point. But, I don't get rattled, and I know that I'm one of the better players in this game, so I have no problems rebuying, and that's exactly what I had to do. I had to grind myself back again. I was at one point, I could have just packed it up or maybe the session could have ended and I would have been down about $1,100, about 200 plus big blinds at one point. But I'm really proud of myself for the way I'm mentally staying in the games and pushing myself and making sure that I keep moving forward. So I did have to grind back. I did have to, make sure that I stayed focused. And I was able to come back to being down only about 60 big blinds. So I was down roughly $300 on the session. So obviously not the result I was hoping for, but still proud of myself for being able to, have the mental awareness to stay engaged, stay focused, and just keep on believing myself in the game. I know that I've talked before about having intentions for every session, and I haven't really been doing that outright because I really feel like I'm in a groove right now. I feel like I'm playing good poker, and any of my results are really just, statistical variance in how the cards run. So I'm really proud of myself for thinking about that and really just trying to not change too many things in my game. I think it's possible for you to tinker too much with your game, and you kind of, end up tripping over your own shoelaces, as they say. So I've just been trying to be steady, just play my game and keep moving forward. So what did I do right and what did I do wrong? This is my first day of playing on Friday. What I did right is I don't get rattled. As many of you know, I'm still kind of building myself back. Playing 2-5 is still kind of a big deal to me. So I don't get rattled anymore for sitting in 2-5. I don't, for buying in for a good portion of my bankroll. I'm a regular 2-5 player now. I don't get intimidated. There's very few players that I kind of look out for. I think I'm over that hump of where I get rattled and intimidated. So I'm going to keep on playing the 2-5 and eventually I won't get rattled playing 10-10. I'm just going to keep on moving up. So I think that's a huge positive for the day. And second, I kept a really generally positive attitude. It would have been super easy to say, oh my gosh, I'm down so much. Oh, why did I run into this? No, none of that. I'm pretty good at catching myself and being able to say, hey, that's in the past. Can't do anything about it. Let's move forward. So I think those are two positive things I did right. What did I do wrong? A little too much time on the phone today. I lacked the level of focus that you really need for professional play. Not that I was on my phone the whole time, of course. I would never do that to myself. But just a little too much. I wasn't engaged as well as I could have been. So that's on me. That's my own discipline. But I also knew enough that I needed to stop at exactly 4 hours. As I mentioned before, I want to get 4 hours of play out of this session. Come hell or high water, come a big win, come a big loss, I don't care. I want to get 4 hours out of the session. So I was in the right state of mind to be able to say, hey, you're doing something wrong. You're not as focused as you could be. You're on the phone too much. Let's put in our hours and let's get out of here. So I did have the frame of mind to do that, to say, hey, your focus is not where it needs to be today. Get your hours in and go. So that's what I did right. That's what I did wrong. And hopefully I'll be able to correct that in the future session. Alright, so now it's Saturday morning. Again, playing 2 days in a row. So showed up a little bit later than I usually do. I took care of my dog, make sure he was walked and fed. So I left the house a little bit later than I usually do, not too much. But overall, the poker room was a little slow for a Saturday morning. I actually had to wait because there really were no seats available, either in 2-5 or 1-3. I asked for both, and both were filled up, but they were the only games running. It's not like the room was full. They were just the only games running, and there were other people ahead of me. So that kind of ended up being a fortunate thing, because that means that I waited, but I was able to sit in a brand new 2-5, which is my preference, because that way you can at least have relatively even stacks to everybody else. Everybody kind of buys in for 100 to 200 big blinds. I think the maximum is 200 big blinds. So I at least have a chance. I don't have to sit there with somebody who has been overnight and has like $3,000-$4,000 in front of them. So started off great. I had a near double up on my second hand. I managed to get somebody who had the second nuts to pay me off on my nut straight. So that was nice. Definitely gave me a little bit of a different attitude towards the rest of the session. Certainly an upbeat attitude. So that can be a positive or a negative thing, because you don't want these wins to affect your mood either too low or too high. But obviously that helped. Unfortunately, I did end up taking an overall loss on the session. I was playing against a much better lineup than Friday, but still pretty tough. Daytime games are going to be tough. So I took an overall loss when I ran my top 2 pair into a set. I think I could have played that hand differently, but top 2 pair over beaten by a set is really close to almost like that set over set situation, where yes, you could have done some things, but the hand kind of played itself. At the very least, I had top 2 pair over bottom set, which means that I still had outs. We got it in on the turn, so I still had outs on the river. I still had 6 live outs on the river because I could have rivered a bigger boat. So that's unfortunate, right? That I did run into that. Reciprocation wise, I think I'm okay with how I played the hand, because I think most people have a hard time laying down 2 pair. But yeah, so I unfortunately did have to post another loss, on the session. I was sitting at the time with a very healthy stack, again, due to the earlier double up. So for better or worse, I paid the other player off with the majority of my profits, but it means that on the session, I didn't really lose as much as I could have, because the majority was profit. So I did take a loss, but I didn't take a direct loss to my bankroll, because, most of it was just other players' money. So I had the opportunity to post a big win, but it turned into a loss. But that's okay, because I'm there for hours, not for the results. So unfortunate, but that's just the way poker is. Again, with reciprocation, I think I'm even on that hand, because I think I'm getting paid off with a flop set also, the way the board and the hand played out. So I'm okay with that. We keep on moving forward. I'm still net positive overall, and as I've mentioned before, I take a long-term view where the hours are going to take care of me. One session is just short-term variance, but as long as I keep on putting in the hours are going to take care of me. So what did I do right and what did I do wrong in this session? One of the great things I did is that I came in with a positive attitude despite the previous day's loss. I still believe that I'm one of the better 2-5 players in that game, in those lineups. So one loss, not a big deal. I had a much better table today. When the new table opens, and it's also a little bit later in the morning, I think you just can get more of the recreational players. Still regulars at parks, but they're more recreational. They're not as good as they could be. So better game selection. And I also spent a lot less time on the phone. I really caught myself, being a little unfocused the previous day, and I was able to correct that today. So I'm very happy about that. As far as what I did wrong, I don't feel like I did a whole lot wrong today. I was engaged in the game, and I think I did pretty good. I had an unfortunate hand at the end and caused a loss. But again, I paid it mostly with profits. So bankroll-wise, it wasn't as big a hit as it could have been. So after the 2 days, I am down about 120 big blinds, which is just a little bit over 1 buy-in. I played nearly 9 hours in my record. So 9 hours of play, I'm down a buy-in. I'm okay with that. A buy-in and a quarter, I'm okay with that. I think that's normal variance. Overall, I'm still net positive in my bankroll. I'm still net positive specifically at 2.5. So I think I'm still doing okay in those regards. A 1.25 loss in any game. Even especially 2.5 and 10.10 and all that. Is not unheard of. So I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary here. It's gonna happen. I'm going to take away the positive that I'm building up my toughness for it, having the stomach for these types of swings. But, being down a buy is completely normal. Look forward to playing again next weekend, and we'll just keep going forward. Hey, let's keep the conversation going. You can reach me on all socials at LV Poker Coach, all one word, on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.